And just a quick note on the score, I did change things actually, and just decisions midway when I was actually recreating it in the DAW. So there are some things I didn't change in the score, but I'm leaving it as is because this is just a pointer video, and I don't feel like going back and correct them, to be honest. I'm just being lazy.
I was actually watching on Netflix the other day this 90s movie called Dennis the Menace, and I was reminded of this character here who, he's kind of like, well, he's the bad guy, but he's kind of goofy, and I was reminded of the scene where he's sneaking around in the house trying to steal stuff, and he's really clumsy too. So I was like thinking of I can make a whole tone thing in my head. Oh, my head was kind of hearing the whole tone scale in as if that situation could have been described there. So with the scale, so here's a cool thing I learned about Notion too. The program is you could actually attach wave files to it. So the sequence I sequenced in the DAW after I wrote it out in here, I actually can align it with the notation and then play it back. It's actually kind of cool. So you get really good sound, but the visual at the same time. So before we get into it, there's something about spelling I want to point out when using the whole tone scale. One thing I want to point out about notating is that it's much easier to read things in thirds than it is diminished fourths like this. E to A flat. You're better off writing E and G sharp because that's a third away. So you might as well. That's the sound you're also getting. It's easier to read. So that's the reason of the inconsistencies here. So let's give it a listen. So if you're ever looking for a notation program that has a cool feature where you can align your DAW audios, I used Vienna Symphonic Library to mock this up, but so yeah, you could align it with your score and play it back, the good sounds. So here's the trick. The entire time, and I'm going to point this out, that there's something always pounding home that C note, okay? That kind of gives a sense of a center, but even though there's really no tonal center. So this is one of the tricks you can use. It's kind of like the diminished scale when we used it in one of the videos. I was always pounding home that center. So if I unmute the unmute these score sounds and use these well, first of all, let's put it this is kind of a free form. There's no harmonic scheme. Free form writing. Literally, I cannot teach you how to do this. I can only give you suggestions.
Because everything here is
literally just done for effect, for this comical, sneaky effect. That's it. That's the only goal I had on this, and that's why I wrote it out straight to the instruments here, is because there's no harmonic scheme either. They're kind of free to do whatever they want. So this is a little different than writing functional harmony where everything has to follow the harmony. So this C note is what we're going to concentrate on here as one of the tricks to, I'm going to use the notation sounds. See, starts on a C note. All the instruments are usually doing something that has to do with the C note that are not being fluttery or effecty. I could just randomly just find them, look around here, and okay, it's all over the place. It's continuously pounded home in your head, so you have kind of at least a sense that there's some kind of center, even though technically there's no tonal center to the whole tone scale, in the sense that we're used to. See, all these C notes, it's always being pounded home. So when something's not being fluttery and effecty, something's pounding home that C note. So constantly. And while the rest of the things are doing interesting effects. So like in part 1 of the videos where we achieved just effects. So like the diminished scale, if you constantly pound home a certain root or area that an ostinato or something revolves around, same thing occurs with the whole tone scale. It kind of tricks the ear into kind of thinking that's a center. So when there really isn't a center. So bringing this back up, let's go over some general things besides that well, little things like this. It's almost always in thirds. That's why the inconsistency, right? But little effects. Everything's just effecty, and effecty is not really a word, I don't think, but literally everything's just kind of doing stuff in thirds. And this is where you just gotta kind of have to use your imagination. Well, that's pounding home that C center. The C center, we have a bunch of stuff doing. I can't drill that fast. I'm not a keyboard player. So, a lot of third movement, and the occasional augmented chords being pounded out, or the two augmented chords of the scale, and that's pretty much it. Just fluttery effects using a third, six, and an occasional augmented chord coming out. So don't think of stuff like this as like some kind of form of functional harmony. Think of it like a form of free form where anything can go in any instrument group at the same time. You are in no way obligated to stick to any harmonic plan. So let's give it a listen back with a good sample set. So let's just do a quick review. We were basically trying to get that feeling of sneaking around, but he's kind of clumsy. He's the bad guy, and we're pounding home that C note to give kind of that implied tonal center. It's not real sound or center. Everything's little fluttery effects in thirds, occasional augmented chord moving around, or thirds, six augmented chords moving around, climbing, whatnot. Little climbing effects like that with the augmented chord. But most important to remember is that there's no harmonic scheme here whatsoever. Everything's done for effect. There's no melody. It's just all effect. So there's no rule that applies to any of this. It's literally a free form of creation. So and it actually sounds kind of cool, you know. It sounds comical and like somebody sneaking around and dropping stuff, being clumsy, but he's the bad guy, and it's fun. And the chances are you're not going to loiter in this scale forever. I mean, it's not even the impressionistic composers use this scale often, but they don't loiter there forever. They move on to other things. So this is one of those scales where you're probably not going to use it for a very long time. So I hope this helps, and that's one way we can use it to create a comical, sneaking around kind of effect. So